Hey y'all, how are you doing? It's been a minute since I've done a live, but I'm great. Thank you so much for asking. I know that I was supposed to do this last night, but I completely forgot that I had a family Zoom call to be on and I wasn't going to miss it. Sorry. Stay connected during these quarantine times, so I pushed it back a little bit, but I am here. Hey, hello, how are you? I've missed you guys. It's been a minute since I've been live on here. Okay. So, I knew that I wanted to talk about this Lana Del Rey thing as soon as I saw it. Y'all know that this sits at the intersection of so many things that I love to discuss. It is race, it is gender, it is pop culture, it is representation. And I did some research on it. I thought about it, made some notes on it, and I think that I might take this in a little bit of a different direction than y'all might be expecting, but that's okay. You know I love that. Y'all know I love to be a provocateur. Okay, so just so that we're on the same page, these lives are going to be structured like a mini lecture. So I'm going to go through my notes, and then at the end, I'm going to circle back around and do the super chats. And then I'll talk about what I'm going to discuss on live next. Okay? All right? Let's get into it. All right. So Lana Del Rey was born Elizabeth Grant. And a few days ago, actually, she made this post on Instagram that caused quite a ruckus. All right? So let's read a few selections from that Instagram post. Okay. She wrote, now that Doja Cat, Ariana, Camila, Cardi B, Kehlani, and Nicki Minaj and Beyonce have had number ones with songs about being sexy, wearing no clothes, fucking, cheating, etc., can I please go back to singing about being embodied, feeling beautiful by being in love, even if the relationship is not perfect, or dancing for money or whatever I want, without being crucified or saying that I'm glamorizing abuse? Next part. With all the topics women are finally allowed to explore, I just want to say over the last 10 years, I think it's pathetic that my minor lyrical exploration, detailing my sometimes submissive or passive roles in my relationships, has often made people say I've set women back hundreds of years. Next part. I've been honest and optimistic about the challenging relationships I've had. Newsflash, that's just how it is for many women. And that was sadly my experience up until the point that those records were made. So I just want to say it's been a long 10 years of bullshit reviews up until recently, and I've learned a lot from them. But I also feel it really paved the way for other women to stop putting on a happy face, to just be able to say whatever the hell they wanted to in their music. Girl. Okay, so there's so much happening there. Lana wants you to know that she's a trailblazer, okay? Rosa Del Rey. But I will say that something that I'm trying to get away from, and something that is really, really popular on the internet, is ascribing the worst possible intent to clumsily stated things, right? So I think Lana did not say really what she meant to say, and she tried to come back and clarify it. So I just decided to do a little bit of a deep dive. So unlike some other people, I do not think that Lana was trying to come for those women that she listed in that first paragraph. I'm sorry, I just don't. I mean, she talks about Ariana in that first paragraph, and we know that Lana and Ariana are friends. They just collaborated on that really not good track for the Charlie's Angels soundtrack. So it just wouldn't make sense in my mind for her to really be trying to shit on Ariana Grande. And also, people know what happens when you try to come for Beyonce and you're a celebrity. So I just don't see that, right? However, there was no reason for her to bring those women into this at all. Okay? Why even say those names? Because, you know, Lana does have some legitimate gripes with how her music has been talked about, especially in like pop music criticism. But if we closely examine how she has been treated in public, the career that she's been able to have, the number of records that she's been able to sell, and we compare that to the rest of the women that she mentioned in that first paragraph, and I'm talking about the non-white women, the women of color here, and just for a second, I'm going to use the word women of color because I do not want to debate whether Doja Cat and Kehlani and Cardi B are black, okay? So women of color / black women, when you compare Lana Del Rey's career to those women, you see that those women have gotten all kinds of shit. Are you trying to pretend like those women don't get shit all the time for their music? For being sexy? For talking about fucking and cheating? What are you talking about, right? And in fact, if we compare the huge tons of shit that is shoveled onto their shoulders versus the kind of career that Lana Del Rey has had, we see that Lana Del Rey, born Elizabeth Woolridge Grant, is incredibly privileged, okay? So, though I believe Lana when she says, she had to come back and clarify because y'all were scalping that girl, okay? Y'all were scalping Lana on the internet, so she had to try to come back and say, oh, I didn't mean it, right? And I believe her when she says that she didn't mean any harm, but you don't have to try to do harm, right? And it is imperative that white feminist women, especially women like Lana, born Elizabeth, who come from very rich families and who take on vaguely ethnic monikers to forward their careers, it is imperative that they can take a step back and have just like a touch more self-awareness before they try to compare their struggles and their successes to the struggles and successes of women of color, Black and Latino women. Leave Black women out of it, okay? Make your point, but just leave us out of it, okay? Because what Lana is embroiled in is a white feminist beef. So don't be trying to sneak women of color in so that you can do it, okay? Because it's really, I'm tokenizing in an unnecessary way. So if you're really going to do this kind of analysis, the kind of analysis that Lana kind of haphazardly tried to do in that little Instagram post, you have to have a firm grasp of the sociocultural and historical landscapes that provide the backdrop for all of pop music. And she just does not have the range. Okay. So first, let's, skip those first paragraphs and some of the more egregious parts of that note, right? And I wanted to take a second to explore how, if you take that step away, then she's not all the way wrong. And then we'll go into how she really just veered wrong, okay? So, Lana's latest album is called Norman fucking Rockwell. And you guys, it is great. I mean, it's just really, really good. I can appreciate a mercurial, moody, white woman singer-songwriter, right? My bolt cutters have been fetched, okay? And also, speaking of Fiona Apple, it is crazy for Lana Del Rey to pretend like she is the first person to talk about fucked up relationship dynamics. She's not the first woman singer-songwriter to do that. She's not the first white woman to do that. Okay? Let's pay homage to Stevie Nicks. Let's pay homage to Joni Mitchell. I mean, Amy Winehouse. Is Amy Winehouse white? Does she count as white? Anyways, Alanis Morissette, Tori, so let's be honest, Lana. Okay, we need to get some perspective, Lana. Let's be honest about that. But also, the other claim that she made it okay for women in pop music to not put on a happy face. Huh? What? What is this pink erasure? Avril Lavigne didn't skateboard into our lives 20 years ago wearing a necktie and a tank top and a Hot Topic belt for you to pretend like you're the first woman in pop music to not be happy and smiling all the time. Come on now. And it is all of those women who set the stage for Lana Del Rey to have the type of career that she's had. The only reason why we are cool with her doing her thing is because so many other women have done that moody, melodic, navel-gazing music, and they've been rewarded for it immensely. But I will say, as I was doing the research on her, I do think that she has a right to be resentful. I went back and looked at the way that she was talked about in 2011 with her first single as Lana Del Rey, right? Video Games and that first album, and then the next album was Ultraviolence. By the way, I like this music. And the next one was Honeymoon. The white critics hate Lana Del Rey. I mean, if you read their criticisms of her work, if you read the takedowns of Lana Del Rey from 9 years ago, 7, 8, 9 years ago, you will think that she's the worst thing to ever happen, right? So I understand why she would be upset about that, because the music is really not that bad. And in fact, when I was reading some of those early reviews, it really struck me how much criticism has changed for the better, how much our critical landscape has changed, because so much stuff about her back then was like, oh, she's fake and she's inauthentic. And I'm talking about white people saying this to her, right? I think that there is a critique that you can level about kind of the vaguely ethnic stuff. But it was the white feminists, right? It was the white men who were like, she is fake and this is inauthentic. And I'm like, this whole shit is fake. Everybody fake around here. What is it that makes Lana Del Rey, the performance that she decided to take on, what makes it people so upset at her, right? And I think that she was skewered because she did not depict her emotional suffering in a way that made those feminist reviewers and those male reviewers comfortable, right? But that's not her problem. There is a real and interesting conversation to have about what it means to glamorize abuse, right? She gets accused of glamorizing abuse all the time. And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, is this woman not allowed to explore her abuse and the kind of fucked up relationship dynamics that she has been involved in? Is she not allowed to depict that and to describe that from her own vantage point? You know, I mean, have we decided that music is a space where only men can act out their violent fantasies and be celebrated? Have we decided that that kind of fucked up, like emotionally jarring imagery is only for men? Because it seems like that's where we are, right? And I understand being mad about that. But I do think it's interesting that white women for a long time really came for her neck. There's like, in a lot of those early reviews, it was extremely condescending and very holier than thou. And I read a great article that like went deep on this. It's an article by a woman named Catherine Vigier. I'm studying French, so I got the French pronunciation. Catherine Vigier. I'm actually going to link all of the citations that I used to put this together over on Patreon. So we'll do a footnote section over on Patreon. But there's a really, really good dissection of why white feminist reviewers hated Lana Del Rey. It's so good, right? But basically, people were mad that Lana Del Rey's pop music persona was strategically disempowered. Because we have certain expectations of how we want women to be in pop music. We want them to empower us. We want you to be angry empowered, or we want you to be fun empowered, right? But you better lift us the fuck up, okay? So go through your shit, but come out of it on the other side like saying, girl, we can get through it. Fuck that, man. But I guess the question, and I think that this is a really legitimate question, is why do we have to be empowered? And this is a critique that I have of pop music generally. Like, why do we always have to be empowered? Like, let's sit in sadness for a while. But thankfully, I think we're past that moment. Because of social media, more people have access to criticism. Because of social media, more voices get to be heard. And I think that Lana's work, and honestly, women's work in general, is being better reviewed now and being better considered now because we have more diverse voices coming to the table. I mean, look, like I said, My Bolt Cutters have been fetched. Fiona Apple's latest album just got a perfect 10 on Pitchfork. Like, I think that that's a good thing, right? All of that is fine. The issue is not that Lana feels like her music has been unfairly reviewed or that she has been unfairly attacked. That's not really the issue, because I think in some contexts, I agree with her. But she needs to know that she has not been treated worse in media than women of color. So there's no reason to even compare, okay? And again, I'm saying women of color, black women, because I know that y'all gonna be debating in the comments about Kalani and Doja Cat and Cardi B. I'm not doing it, okay? But you know, I mean black women, okay? Next. So it is right and useful for Lana to be angry at the structures that minimize the artistic explorations of women, right? That's necessary. Pushback is a tale as old as time. They want women to be frivolous and stupid, right? But women who are privileged like Lana, when they're trying to make their feminist statements, make this mistake of using the broad category woman without fully considering that all women are not playing on an equally level field. In fact, all women don't even get to play the same game. Women of color, black women and white women, they are not operating in pop music on the same way. Okay, so you have to consider what black women are going through, what Latina women can do in this context when you try to drag their names into it. And yes, that does require more work. And yes, that does require reading and study. And maybe that's too much to ask, right? Like maybe it's too much to ask for a pop star to do that. But that's why we have to be careful with our words here, okay? So I think that is the foundation of a lot of the outrage. A lot of black women get so mad at that kind of stuff because it's hurtful, okay? Don't minimize our stuff or what we have to go through to achieve incredible stuff in order to defend yourself. Don't do that. Right? Don't talk about us having it great and so easy and how we're celebrated just because you feel like you've been wronged by structures that we're also wronged by. Why? Okay? Because you've got to willfully ignore a whole lot of context to think that the hits from Cardi B, Kehlani, Beyonce, Meg, Doja, Nicki, etc. have not come with massive amounts of blowback. You also have to ignore that the explicitly sexual performances and the way that they're consumed are also a product of the same structural obstacles that you're railing against. So when I say Lana does not recognize her enormous privilege, okay, so here's what I mean. Lana Del Rey, I like her music. I really like Born to Die. Like, that is my shit. And I really like Norman fucking Rockwell. But she's pretty good. You know, she writes some interesting songs, sometimes a little too wordy. But she's not exceptional. She's not a once in a generation talent. You know, she's as good as you need to be a white woman superstar. And Lana still gets a ton of space to explore interiority in her music. She gets to be messy and, in her words, embodied and complex and contradictory. And yeah, early on in her career, some critics didn't like that. Though, again, the reviews for Norman fucking Rockwell, her latest album, have been exceptional, right? So even if some critics don't like it, she still gets that space. And a lot of people consume that. I mean, like, so I didn't really realize how many records Lana Del Rey has actually sold until I did some research. She's very popular. So it is crazy to me to have her say in that Instagram post, well, they can be naked and talk about fucking and talk about sex and talk about cheating and nobody cares. And all I want to do is be a soft and sensitive woman and I want to be vulnerable and talk about feelings. What are you saying? Because non-white women getting number ones, being naked and talking about sex is fine and it's cool and enjoyable, but is that a privilege? I don't understand the construction there. And I want to make it clear that I'm not hating on black women, women who are not white, who want to be sexy and talk about sex and twerk and whatever. I'm not mad at it. I quite enjoy it. But if you've been watching this channel for a while, you know that I have complicated feelings about this. I made a whole video last year asking, why do black women have to sell sex, right? And in that video, I went through the charts and looked at the kind of music that black women were making on the charts and what the videos look like. And what I found is that if you are a black woman, and you want a hit, then you need to be unclothed and you need to be singing or rapping sexually explicit lyrics. Like, that is the key. That is the formula. That is not the formula for white women on the charts, right? So when you compare the type of stuff that black women get to make versus the wide range of stuff that white women get to make, there is a difference, right? And that shit is structural. So I think that what Lana, when you try to say, well, they get to be free and sexy, what you fail to consider is that what the masses primarily want to consume from black women, women who are not white, is our bodies and our sexualities. That's a tale as old as racial capitalism, right? That goes way back, right? Like when I had that conversation with Kashawn Thompson, she said, black women in this country literally built this country through our bodies, right? Like they need that. They want that. They desire that. And that same thing still happens with consumption of popular music, right? So most of the women that Lana Del Rey named in the first paragraph are still fighting to be messy and complex and contradictory whole people with thoughts and emotions in their music, right? White women get to be whole people from the start. Black women get to be bodies. That's not a privilege, right? And I just think it's important to note that Lana Del Rey gets to take up the kind of space that Black women who are arguably much more talented than she is, right? Much more ambitious, much more creative. They have to fight for that. She just gets it, right? And not only is the bar higher for Black women and women of color, but the accepted range for what they get to do creatively is much narrower. So stop comparing. Leave Black women out of it. And this is the thing that so many white feminists get caught up on, okay? They see Black women who have to surmount these huge obstacles in order to get mainstream success, right? They see that as freedom. But they look at it as freedom without considering all the societal shit that they're carrying. We need that context. We need that history, right? And a thing is, look, am I surprised that Lana Del Rey lacks that context? Am I surprised that Lana Del Rey lacks that history? No, I'm not. Because there are lots of incentives to ignore that stuff, right? There are lots of incentives to ignore the context that other people around you are coming from and only center your experience, especially if you're a white woman, okay? So, in order for Lana Del Rey, really, if she wants to have this conversation, if she really wants to have a cogent response to what I agree are like really unnecessary attacks on her music and her persona or whatever, she has to engage her whiteness, right? That is the reason why we're upset, right? Because that informs her work. It informs her ability to succeed. Her entire aesthetic is about nostalgia. Like a nostalgia, a yearning for a time when things were easier and simpler. I mean, it's really like a make America great again kind of whiteness that Lana Del Rey traffics in. And that's not to say that she's a Trump supporter. She's not, right? She has explicitly said, fuck Donald Trump, right? But she's very 1960s, remember when everything was cool and we were just laying on the beach and wearing bikinis? Like, that is her aesthetic. And you can only traffic in that aesthetic if you're white. Sorry, it's just not available to women who are not white. Because you don't look at a Black woman, you don't look at a Latina woman and think, wow, like, remember the good old days. It doesn't work, right? And Lana's ability to embody that aesthetic, like, that is a huge part of her appeal. That's a huge part of why she gets all that space. So we're just not getting away with anything. And I do think that if you are going to fight for women to be free, because I really do think that she is fighting for, she believes herself to be fighting for women to be free. But you gotta fight for all women to be free to do everything. Don't do the I'm so put upon because I just want to be a delicate snowflake. Y'all like women who are twerking, but y'all don't like women who are talking about their feelings. Stop it, Lana. Because that's not true. And even, she literally used the word delicate in that Instagram post. Even that is racialized. Who gets to be delicate? I just think I really am opposed to her claiming that special victim status. I think it was unnecessary. I think it was unuseful. Make your points, but if you're going to try to make some points, make sure you have the range. And she did not have the range. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why Lana Del Rey should have kept Black women out of it. The end. All right, so I'm going to go back and answer all the super chats. So while I am pulling that up, I will say that the next thing I know I've seen a lot of people try to leave comments about Doja Cat. I understand. I will not be talking about Doja Cat in public, but I will talk about it for a patrons only live video because my Doja Cat thoughts are they're just not gonna be fit for the public. So if you're a patron, if you're a member, we'll go into that, but it's just gonna be, no, I can't do that. Okay. So let me go into these super chats. Themis and Thoth says, white women do not see beyond their own pain historically, and Lana's statement is indicative of that. Very true. Oh my gosh, somebody gave me 50 pounds? What the hell? Shout out to you, Mary. Tabby Momo 87 says, hey Kim, although I don't quite believe in them, I've been getting into MBTI. What's your MB personality type? ENFJ. I don't believe in that at all. I think that, is that the Myers-Briggs stuff? I think Myers-Briggs is astrology for people who work in offices, and that is not. And y'all know I don't really fuck with astrology like that. So I don't know what my Myers-Briggs type is. Okay. Shaman Squirrel says, who hasn't been criticizing these women though? Yeah, like that is the thing, right? So you have to have a very myopic vision to think that Doja, Nicki, Beyonce, Card, like you have to really not be paying attention if you think that all of the feedback to those women being super sexual, being explicit, talking about fucking has been positive. We're not living in the same world. Okay, so next, Kelly Evans. The language she used was interesting. Words like fragile goes to the strong black woman trope. Yes, Kelly Evans, that is my beef, right? My beef was she doesn't even recognize how she is trafficking in racialized language. Now, I had to cut this out of my notes, but something that I thought was really interesting was she is encouraging people to juxtapose her persona, which is the delicate, fragile, sad white woman, versus the personas of those other women, which are empowered, sexual, sexually liberated, naked women of color. Right? Racialized. Don't do that. Okay. Themis and Thoth, sorry if I am mispronouncing that, says, this is white feminism at its finest. It is. Okay, let me refresh because I feel like new people. Okay, let's see. Tamika Prince says, imagine if society would stop putting women of color in boxes. Then we wouldn't have to resort to gimmicks to get seen and heard. It must be a strange concept to have an open mind, right? Like that is the thing, right? So it is so strange. Look, this is the thing. So what Lana Del Rey has a problem with, and I think what a lot of white feminists, like now and historically, have had a problem with, is the pedestal of white womanhood. Wants women to be docile and demure, and they want women to be like non-threatening and non-sexual or whatever. And so they think that black women, women of color, being able to be sexual and whatever is freedom. No, that's also a box, right? Like, it's unfortunate that, you know, the historical knowledge is not there, that in the same way that white women have historically been put in a box, and also white women have been very opportunistic about that box, right? Like, I think another issue that we have is like you have a problem with being in that box until you can weaponize white womanhood to your benefit. I think that's another problem that we have, right? And so they see black women being able to do certain things and they don't recognize that that is also a box, that we are also boxed in. But unlike you, we don't have the opportunity to weaponize the boxes. We just got to make do. We just got to make the best of those boxes, right? Get our money or whatever, try to make good lives and try, you know, to break out of these boxes. But we don't get to do the same shit. Okay. I don't know if anybody else has said anything. I think that is it. So, as I mentioned, oh my gosh, shout out to the new members. More people have joined members. Oh, thank you guys. So my next live is going to be about Doja Cat. It's going to be members only, patrons only, because they're just things that I just don't want to say in public. And that's really it. So give me a couple days. Give me a couple days to really do the research on Doja Cat. I didn't realize that her father, she doesn't have a relationship with her black father. Is that true? I didn't realize that. That definitely, as another, mixed race woman raised by a white woman. That colors a lot of that stuff. I need to do some research, y'all. I need to do some. So we'll come back and do that live and talk about it. And then I think my next public live is going to be about Joe Biden's racism. And it's going to be, I feel complicated about this because I don't want Donald Trump to be president in 2021. But we can't not have a conversation about Joe Biden's racism. We just have to. So that's going to be my next public live. I decided I'm trying to keep these lives as short as possible. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you enormously for being here. Leave a comment down below. You can hit me up on Instagram, hit me up on Twitter, buy some merch, sign up for the email newsletter. Guys, I want to say this, and I say this all the time, but I live in the United States of America where a lot of people have decided that the pandemic is over. They've just decided. The pandemic is not over. People are still getting sick. People are still getting hospitalized. Please stay safe. Try to keep yourself safe. And also try to keep other people safe by continuing to social distance. Wash your hands. Please help keep the frontline workers safe. There is no reason to be as reckless as I've seen people being over this holiday weekend. The shit is not done just because you want it to be over. Anyways, the last thing I wanted to say is my goal for the past month was to get FORHARRIET's Instagram up to 100,000 followers. We did that. Thank you so much. That's all I have to say. I will talk to you guys next time. Bye.